Welcome back to MJL 3764, collecting Elvis on vinyl. Now, a short while ago I did a video on this album, Elvis in Person, at the International Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada. And when this was issued, it was originally a double album, from Memphis to Vegas, from Vegas to Memphis. And it also featured this album, Back in Memphis, which we didn't have time to show on that video. So today I thought I'll do a short video on the Back in Memphis album. Now, I'll call it a short video because I don't really want to go through these albums again as we've seen them on the international video. So let's take a quick look at this album. I've only got the one copy, singular copy of Back in Memphis. It's USA pressing on the Tan label. But we'll have a look at some CDs and some singles. There was no single issued from this album, Back in Memphis, but there were two B-sides issued back in the day, so we'll take a look at them also. So here's the Back in Memphis album. It's a 10-track album. As said, originally released as a double, reached number 3 in the UK album charts in 1970. Back side looks like that. Came with the lovely inner sleeves, which you get in the US. And it's on the Tan label. Now, on my previous video I did say that it wasn't my cup of tea that they issued a live album with a studio album. But it seems, looking at the comments, most people actually do think it was a good idea. So that's interesting. I did say on my previous video I did get used to the pairing, as I've heard this album for so many years as a double album, but I just think it gets a little forgotten being part of a double set. It seems to me that it's side 3 and 4, and this album being quite a dynamic album, this album is a lot more subdued, certainly more subdued than from Elvis in Memphis. It's still a great album, but there's no Wearing That Love Done look. After Loving You, I'm Moving On this album. Even though they're culled from the same sessions, this one's a lot more subdued. In fact, I don't like to use the word heaviest, but the heaviest record on here is Stranger in My Own Hometown, which is not a fast type track. It's, as we all know, it's a bluesy type jam. Apart from that, this album is mostly ballads and country songs. But still a very good album, and I just think it sort of gets glossed over being part of a double package. Let's take a look at the tracks. 10-track album. My favourite tracks from here would be Affairs Moving On, You'll Think of Me, Inherit the Wind, Stranger in My Own Hometown, and my favourite, A Little Bit of Green. Now, as I said earlier about being overlooked, that song, A Little Bit of Green, well, certainly in the UK, unless we're talking about CDs and compilations which just concentrated on the Memphis sessions, i.e. the Suspicious Minds double CD or the Essential 60s Masters box set, stuff like A Little Bit of Green is not on any compilation album whatsoever. And it's a country love song, so it could have gone on great country songs, it could have gone on love songs, but no, A Little Bit of Green, it's just forgotten. I think it's a great track and it's not on any UK compilation album, barring the ones I've just mentioned about the Memphis sessions. So, and stuff like Without Love as well. That never seems to turn up. Even the Affairs Moving On, the B-side, doesn't turn up that often. So I think a lot of the tracks on here are just overlooked, really. Inherit the Wind, we know we did have a live version from '69. Originally had that on a bootleg, that turned up eventually. And This Is a Story also. Not really a live track in my mind, but Elvis chose to do it. Stranger in My Own Hometown, obviously this is the horn overdub. If you haven't heard it, I would seriously check out the undubbed version of this. It's a great jam. A Little Bit of Green, I've said, I think is a great song. And The Grass Won't Pay No Mind, yeah, that's okay, the Neil Diamond song. Do You Know Who I Am? Another one you don't see turn up very often. Nice ballad. From a Jack to a King, this is probably the weakest track on this album for me. From a Jack to a King and Hey Jude from these sessions were not my favourites. So that's the weakest track on the album for me. The Fair's Moving On, absolutely fantastic track. You'll Think of Me, absolutely fantastic. And Without Love, great track as well. So, a very good album, all in all. Some CDs featuring the album now. Of course, it's available on the anniversary 60th box set. It's on a single disc. Does come in the gatefold cover. And does feature 2 out of the 4 pictures which were available with early copies in the US certainly. In the UK we just had I believe we just had an insert with a discography on it. So that was very nicely done. We've also got the from Elvis in Memphis. Double disc, Legacy, which also features the Back in Memphis album of course. And a few extra tracks, singles, a few bonus tracks. Fantastic release this one. Very well done. Highly recommended. In a gatefold sleeve. And I'll let you pause for the tracks there. A must have. Another must have at the time, Suspicious Minds. This was a great CD at the time, featuring all the Memphis sessions plus some outtakes. It's a double CD also. And there's the tracks on the back. Also the full albums available on this box set. From Elvis in Memphis of course. And you'll find them on disc 4 and disc 5 with a few alternatives again. That's been quite well documented on CD. This release is one of my favourite releases. That's the vinyl. The Year in Review, the Memphis record. Fantastic release featuring the Memphis sessions. Some alternatives on here. Really interesting, great to listen to. Did they have time to put a little bit of green on this compilation? No. Shame. But still, one of my most favourite compilations. Some outtakes now on this FTD release, Memphis Sessions. Very good release at the time, this one. Did they have time to put an alternative of a little bit of green? No. This one features a couple of tracks also, an FTD from the Memphis Sessions, and of course this box set here, which is not like me, but this is actually still sealed because I wasn't happy with this. I pre-ordered this thinking it was all the sessions, but it isn't, it's incomplete. So this really needs to be done again with everything on it. This material deserves a proper release, and I don't think this was done properly. So that's the main one to get if you're looking for these sessions though. A small selection of bootleg releases there featuring material from the Memphis sessions. This was the first one that I owned, American Rejects. Lovely cover. This unfortunately only features 7 tracks. But a very good release, and yes, they did find time to put an alternative of a little bit of green on there, which if you'd like to hear this alternative, when you get to the end of the video, just click and you can hear that version of a little bit of green. This one's a great one, American Crown Jewels. One of my favourite releases, this one. Remember, a lot of this stuff wasn't out at the time, and some of it still isn't out, i.e. track 17, an alternative of Only the Strong Survive, which is a great version. If you've heard it, you know what I mean, but it's not out as yet. Also, these releases from the Bilko label, There's Always Me, Volume 2 and Volume 3 featured some alternatives from the Memphis sessions on disc 2. Absolutely superb set, this, and Volume 3 also featured on disc 2. A few more from the Memphis sessions, unreleased at the time. So they were great releases, There's Always Me. Let's take a look at some singles. 2 tracks were taken from this album and issued as single B-sides. The first being The Fair's Moving On, which was the B-side of Clean Up Your Own Backyard, which reached number 21 in the UK singles charts. And the second was You'll Think of Me, which was the B-side of Suspicious Minds, which reached number 2 in the UK singles charts. We'll take a look at them in a minute. A little while later, in 1982, RCA issued this single, Are You Lonesome Tonight? This is the laughing version. It was in a picture cover. And as you can see, they've taken my least favourite song from Back in Memphis, From a Jack to a King, and put it on the B-side. I think they do this on purpose. This reached number 25 in the UK singles chart. Backside looks like that. It was issued to advertise the new album The Sound of Your Cry, or Greatest Hits Volume 1 if you're in the US, and it was on the blue Elvis label. The first of the 2 B-sides is The Fair's Moving On, which was the B-side of Clean Up Your Own Backyard. There's a dink copy, there's a 4-prong copy of the single. I've never seen this in a solid centre, so if anybody owns one, please let me know. This song has also been credited as The Fair Is Moving on some releases. So that's The Fair's Moving On. And the second one was You'll Think of Me, which was the B-side of Suspicious Minds. That's the 4-prong, that's a solid, there's a dink copy, there's a USA copy, bit sleeve, plenty of singles there, great single. You'll Think of Me, by the way, is actually a slightly different version from the one that can be found on the Back in Memphis record. I think that's it for now. That's the album Back in Memphis. So until the next time, thank you for watching. And just remember, on his music, life's no waste.